Let's start off by saying you are not wrong for feeling angry. There is nothing wrong with you feeling hurt. You are not broken if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel resentful, jealous, or even you're just feeling flat. That part matters. And we'll come back to that. But there's a line that most people never cross honestly. And that is feeling something does not entitle you to behave however you want to next. And if that sentence, if that tightens something in your chest, if that leaves you slightly uneasy, then this episode is for you. Welcome back to Master Your Mindset, Master Your Life. This is a short, actionable podcast to help you get from stuck to unstoppable. I'm Sand, and I'm here to help you on your journey. If you get something from this, pay it forward and share it with someone who you know who would benefit. Otherwise, let me know your biggest takeaways in the Master Your Mindset, Master Your Life Facebook community. So, as I was saying, feeling something does not entitle you to behave however you want. Because somewhere along the line, emotional validation just quietly got upgraded into this behavioural permission. And it's costing you. It's costing you relationships, leadership, your self-respect. And this isn't about you suppressing your emotions. That story is tired. That story is inaccurate and it's unsupported by evidence. This is about what happens after that feeling. This is a moment where character is either built or just eroded. And most people will never ever examine that moment. So let's name that confusion clearly. Over the last couple of decades, psychology and mental health education, it has rightly emphasized that emotions are data rather than defects. And that means that you are valid in whatever you feel. And that idea is then supported by the mainstream psychological research that's been going on. That emotion signal needs, it signals threat, values, and boundaries rather than a moral failure. That part is all true, but here's where that distortion then crept in. Somewhere between your feelings are valid and be authentic, there was something got lost in translation and we lost a critical distinction. Validation explains a feeling, but it does not excuse behavior. And this isn't philosophy. This isn't behavioral science. Research in emotional regulation consistently shows that impulse-driven emotional behavior increases your long-term distress, not relief. And this is especially shown in relationships. Yet culturally, we've normalized phrases like, that's just how I felt. I'm allowed to react. I was being honest. I shouldn't have to filter myself. And let me be precise here, because these phrases often function less as truth and more as a defense mechanism, a way of avoiding responsibility for the impact of your actions. And avoidance always extracts interest later. So here's the pattern I want you to see within this episode. This is what I want you to get out of this episode. So you feel something strong, a strong emotion, anger, disappointment, fear, resentment, maybe even emotional fatigue. Then almost unconsciously, your mind then reaches for a license. It reaches for a license to snap, to withdraw, to go cold, to punish with silence, to justify your tone, to unload your emotional weight onto someone else. And then when you're challenged, your defense appears instantly. I was just being real. I can't help how I feel. I just needed to express it. So let's separate those facts from fiction. You cannot directly choose what emotion arises. Sometimes it just happens. You have no control over it. But you can influence how you respond to that emotion. So when your behavior is defended as unavoidable, that isn't the truth. That's just abdication. And here's where the discomfort will come in. If your emotions routinely dictate your behavior, you are not emotionally intelligent. You are emotionally led. And that's not a strength. That's reactivity, but with better vocabulary. And when you're like that, when you start reacting, when you start allowing your emotions to dictate everything you do, then you're going to struggle. You're going to find it difficult and you're going to end up with consequences. So, some of the consequences that actually happen, and this is, as always, it's trust erosion. And this is not even with yourself, this is with other people. Because when you're repeatedly emotional, when you completely just license your behavior by snapping, shutting down a volatile tone, it teaches people that they must manage you. They do not relax around you. They do not just let everything out. What they do is they then tread on eggshells. They then only give you certain bits of information because they know that if you don't get the right information, you're going to react in a certain way. So people don't confront this directly. What they do is they adapt, they share less, they brace more, they stop leaning in. How many times have you said to yourself that you have to stand on eggshells around someone? Because maybe they get too emotional, maybe they're just not in the right headspace at the moment and they constantly snap at you. And so you end up, rather than you confronting that behavior, no, you change the way you behave and you start being more careful around them. And this is the same if you allow your emotions to constantly get the better of you. The next thing is your self-trust in yourself. Because every time you're saying, I couldn't help it, when you could have actually paused, you could have taken that moment, you could have just thought things through before you reacted. Every time you do that, you tell yourself that you're not in charge. And that self-trust is built through those internal commitments, not the positive self-talk. So when you break that enough times and your motivation collapses, it's not because you're lazy, it's because your nervous system no longer believes what you're saying. So those are two huge consequences from actually not allowing yourself to control your emotions. But what on the other side is you've got emotional maturity. And emotional maturity is not being calm all the time. It's not never feeling triggered. It's not being endlessly patient. It is not just swallowing everything and carrying on. That caricature is unsupported and it's unlivable in reality. Emotionally mature people feel fully. They notice quickly. They choose deliberately. What they do is they create a space between emotion and action. That space is not suppression. What it is they're taking a moment to regulate. It's regulation. And regulation is not a personality trait, it's a skill. And your prefrontal cortex, the decision making part of your mind, can inhibit that emotional impulse when trained through awareness and pause. This was actually quoted within A Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, where he says you have a moment to react before you have a moment after something has happened. You have a moment to think about how you're going to react to it. That you are in control of. You are in control of whether you just react instantly or you take a second. So you are trainable, but only if you stop defending that the gap is impossible. So it's not the feeling, it's that half second after you feel justified. That's the hinge in your life. And here's the question you need to be asking yourself: who are you becoming every time you let emotion decide your next move? Not who do you mean to be, not who do you identify as, who are you training yourself to be? because behavior is rehearsal, and rehearsal becomes reflex. So today it's not about a checklist, not about skill deficit. This is about you taking ownership. You taking ownership of your feelings and your reactions. Just let yourself know you are allowed to feel anything you want, but you are not allowed to abandon your standards because of it. That's it. There's no techniques yet, no breathing protocols. These will come later if needed. But this line alone, when you think about it regularly, it should change how you show up in conflict, in leadership, in parenting, in partnership, and even with yourself. Because now the feeling isn't the boss of you. You are. Your mind is, not your emotions. And if you don't correct this pattern, nothing dramatic happens. As I said before, a lot of these things is not an instant thing. What will happen is slowly distance will grow. Slowly you'll start to build up guilt. Slowly you'll lose respect for yourself. And the gap between you, who you think you are, and who you actually are, that behavior between who you think you are and who you actually are, that will grow as well. And that gap is where resentment lives, towards other people, towards yourself. And that resentment will always find an outlet. And it's usually sideways, to those around you, to those who are trying to help you. So remember, you do not need to be less emotional. You need to be more sovereign. And the strongest people, they're not the most expressive. They are the most responsible with their expression. And the next time you feel a feeling rise up, like anger, guilt, fear, and it will, remember that the feeling didn't decide who you are. What you did then, what you did next, that decided who you were. I hope you got something from this episode, and I really hope it hit home and will make you think going forward about how you respond to everything. If you did, share this episode with someone, or leave me a message on the Facebook community, Master Your Mindset, Master Your Life. Let me know what your biggest takeaways were. Let me know what you're going to implement and how it changes your life. And as always, if you know someone who would benefit, please share it. Leave a rating or review so more people can actually get this podcast. Thank you.